Welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. Super excited today. I have something super new and it's going to change the way we fit locks, hopefully. So this is a door. Well, it's a mock-up of a door, but it's a door. A lot of people in units actually have deadbolts on their front doors when they shouldn't. Once a year the fire guy will come around, and if they've told you that you need to swap your deadbolt to a dead latch, this type of lock, it's a nasty job. The amount of times I've had this call, oh, can you come and repair this to this? And I think to myself, oh no, I don't want that job. And I'm one of the people who actually fit locks as well. I fit locks. So we need a better solution. So we've come up with a better solution. It's a Dr. Lock patent pending idea, and I'm going to take you through and show you this idea. Now this idea basically changes a real shitty job into an easy to do job that an apprentice could do. You could just give him the parts and sort it out. So let's go through now. So this is a deadbolt. It sits on the door like this. You turn the key, it protrudes this big latch on the side here that you can see. I'm touching there. Now this particular lock here has a 54mm hole footprint and takes a latch. A rim latch, such as this Lockwood 001, which is suited for unit front doors and other types of front doors, takes a 32mm hole. Now in comparison, this hole right here, this hole here is 32mm. So you see the difference in the sizes. There's a big difference. So how do you put a rim lock in a knob set or a deadbolt hole? This is the problem. Now on fire rated doors it actually has to be fire rated. So what people have been doing is they've been using sleeves like this, filling all this up with putty, putting a sleeve over the top and re-drilling it. Now a lot of the times they use fire rated putty and different things. Most of the time it's stuff like this, builder's bog. A lot of time it's car panel beating bog, which actually complies. I've seen many of them patched up in that way. They put all this pink bog in there and it actually complies, and they re-drill and they fit the footprint and all the rest, and away you go. But the problem is when you're trying to fit, and I'll just quickly show you this part here, when you're trying to fit this plate over the top of this hole, you can see what's happening here. Look at the size of that hole and look at the size of that plate. Basically, you've got no strength left. I'll show you here. Look at that. Look how big that is. There's the top, there's the bottom. You've got nothing really left to hang on to. The structural integrity of the door is definitely compromised. As far as being fire rated when you're fixing it with putty, it's a 50-50. You might get it marked off, you might not. A lot of the guys will say, oh, okay, well that complies, it's fire rated material, and mark it off. But the truth is, when you cut a bigger hole, you're going to be losing material and strength in the door. So we've come up with a new solution. And this type of wrapping around the door with a stainless steel plate and doing that kind of looks ugly. You also sometimes have to mortise in this edge here because the door won't slam because there's a very narrow gap there. So that's another problem with using that particular type of plate. A lot of other people, they fill it up with putty. They put like a sleeve in. They put a sleeve like this through the hole, and then they fill this up with putty around here, and they fill this up through here. Now you've got to remember too, that's how much meat we're talking about is going to be filled up just with putty, if you can see, like where the latch used to be. So from here down to here is nothing but putty. Putty cracks, the door slams, and it's kind of brittle. So when you're banging and slamming your door and it's hitting up against your fire rated door, and wooden doors hitting up against a metal frame, what's going to happen is you're going to get a bit of movement in here. Your pane is going to crack, and it's going to, in a few years, it's going to look absolute rubbish. It's going to look terrible. So it's not a great solution. I mean, heaps of people are out there doing it. Don't get me wrong. If you're doing that and you do that for a living, you repair them that way, good for you. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying I've got a better solution, and a much better solution that's going to save a lot of people a lot of time. Now this is your rose here that goes around the cylinder. A lot of people, they put that over the top, they do their putty work, all the rest they come back and they fit it up like that. And it looks a little bit rough. You've got steps here, steps there. You can actually grab this cylinder, you've got a bit of room there to do that sort of stuff. So I mean, that's not really ideal. A lot of people have that on their unit front doors. Using a stainless plate now, once again, you got the same thing. The cylinder is still sort of protruding there. You cut the rose or whatever, you grab your cylinder, you can still kind of refit. So security wise, I'm not very overly excited about that method either. So you've got the hole on the door. What do you do? If you're sending, let's look at it from a fitter and installer's point of view, which I am, so we'll look at it from that point of view because I only have that point of view. how can I send an apprentice out there to fix a door like this? Do I send him there to putty it all up and then re-drill the holes, measure and mark and re-drill the holes? That's one option. But remember that once you putty it up, you're still going to be left with a couple of your holes that are going to need to be drilled through the putty and re-tapped into the putty. And when you re-drill a hole into putty, it basically cracks. And when it cracks, that screw has a tendency to actually come back out over the years. And if that screw comes out inside this lock housing, there's a good chance you might even get a jammed lock in a few years. So tapping screws into putty and expecting them to hold as much as it would into a wooden surface just doesn't work. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I have my door and I'm going to fit it up and I'm going to show you what we've come up with. Okay, so here's the part that's going to blow your mind. This is the device right here. This is it. And I'm going to show you how to fit it. I'm going to show you how long it takes you to fit it. I'm going to show you the benefits of it, all very quickly. It comes in 3 pieces. Your main sleeve, your faceplate for the latch, and a spacer. Now all of this is actually made out of stainless steel. So the melting point of brass, I believe it is, like 1,000. It's on the periodic table. I'll double check it to make exactly sure. That's 1,000. When I looked up stainless, we're coming in about 1,500. So most locks which are on the door, which are fire rated and approved, come in at about 1,000 degrees. This can go another 50%. So that's just the strength that we've put into the engineering of it, so that it basically is rock solid. Once again, the other reasons for going for stainless is it matches the finish of the lock. The other reason for it is it doesn't tarnish. So you end up with a product that's going to last a long time. Let's put it together. Enough talk now. So you take your faceplate, you put your screw through there, you put your spacer on there, and you put the nut. You put the square nut on the back, just give it half a turn, just like that. You put it into the door, like so. Now this can do left or right-handed. So we could be going this side, or we could be going this side. The latch could be coming this side or this side. It doesn't matter. As long as the top screw is up the top, we're good to go. So from there, I'll just quickly show you what I'm doing. I'll bring it closer to the camera. I've got that part, you can see there with this nut right here. We'll just slide this in together. Here we are. You can see how they marry up. Slide that right in there. Now we get our screwdriver and we tighten. Just hold it in place, hold it flat, and just tighten it in. It's hard to do this on camera and at the same time. So we push this in flat here, make sure it's flat, and tighten. So what that does is it connects this latch section to this main sleeve housing. Now that they're both connected, it actually gives strength. So if the door was kicked or whatever, it basically connects the two, so it's a main unit. Okay, from there we have these 2 striker screws, latch screws. We're just going to quickly put them in as well. So they're nothing special, as you can see on the side here, just screwing them in. 1, 2. They're already in the door, so all your holes should be ready to go. Everything should just line straight up. At the moment, that's what we're looking at. Okay, so let's go back here. Here's our plate for our 001, and here's where the magic kind of happens. If you've got a thicker door, this is a 35. If you've got a 38mm door, there is actually a trick where you can make this into one for a 38 or a 40 or 45. This extra screw hole here, you can screw a screw into if you've got a thicker door. But because our door here, we're only talking 1mm difference, we don't need it. What happens with this screw is you screw the screw in here, you mount your plate over the top, you can get a little positive screwdriver in there and back that out or tighten it in if needed. If needed. And that's basically to stop, when you're tightening it up, the plate kinking and giving it a bit more of a footprint onto the flat surface. Not really needed. But what you can also use this extra hole for is extra strength as well. As you see, there's a hole here and there's a hole here. On our plate, the new 001s don't come out with it, but the older ones do. So you can actually use both of those holes, that one there and that one there, as part of the anchoring equation. We're not going to do that this time around because it's not really needed, but we are going to fit this up. So now we've gotten to this stage here. As you can see, it's all one unit on the door. Now we're going to move over to our cylinder. So we simply just slot our cylinder straight through the middle, and that's what you're looking at on the door. It is a little bit, it's just like a bigger rose. It sits flat, there's nothing to grab onto, it's nicely ramped, the finish is almost identical, so it really looks good. So we're pretty happy with that. Now that's on the door there, we need to get ourselves a couple of cylinder screws. Here's our 001 plate, and we're just going to start that off, just as you would fit a normal 001 anyway. And where's another cylinder screw? Here's one. Cylinder screws are the ones with the smaller head. So we fit that through there, and we pick up the other side of the cylinder like so. There's my screwdriver, and we just tighten them up. Now we don't need to tighten this up super tight at this stage, we're just tightening them up, just so it doesn't move on the door. There's still one more screw to put in. So, where's my correct screw? I'll use this screw. So we still, now if you look at this footprint, one of the biggest problems to overcome here was we can put a screw in here, we can put a screw in here, and we can put a screw in here, and this screw is actually off-centered to the latch, so you can actually put that screw in. But here, because of the 54mm hole, there's basically nothing to put the screw into. So that's why we've added this extra screw on this side here, so that we can basically line it up, put that screw in. That gives the lock more to hang on to. Normally I'd be using a recessed screw, but for some reason I've misplaced it for this demonstration. So we tighten that up. Now what we do is we align it, make sure our edge right here is aligned perfectly, which it is. We can tighten all 3 screws up now that we're happy with the way it's sitting. Just tightening all 3 screws up. That's definitely the wrong screw for there. There's my screw gun. It's a problem with a messy bench. This one should do. Okay, so now you can see it's anchored in here. We've got our cylinder screws. We can now drill and put a wood screw in here, a wood screw in this position, and a wood screw in this position. Once we've done that, we put our key from the front. We turn it 180 degrees, we put the cam on the back, tailpiece is a bit long, but this is only a demo. Then we come along with our lock, we slide it on, and that's it. So basically the installation has turned from a putty, a sand. If you were to give putty to an apprentice or any worker or handyman, they basically have to go there, remove the locking system, putty it up, then come back once the putty's dry, then sand it, and then come back and paint it. Once you've done all that, you've got to come back again and then fit a lock in that spot again. So that's 3 to 4 visits. If you're doing it in 1 to 2 visits, you're basically cutting corners. So 3 to 4 visits to do the putty method, and it doesn't have the strength in the door, which this has. Also, fire rating, as far as fire rating, stainless steel is stronger than brass. So as far as what will melt first, this will melt. As far as putty, well, it's very hard to say what type of putties and where they would melt. A lot of them are fire rated and they have been tested, things along those lines, but I'd much prefer to have a solid piece of stainless steel on my door than I would a big chunk of putty. So there it is fitted on the door. I haven't put those screws in there, I'll just push that on there. There it is fitted to the door. Now basically your lock will be working. It's an old 001 too, actually. Okay, that's what you're going to see on the edge of the door. It's nice and presentable. That's what you're going to see on the front of the door, nice and presentable. And from the inside, you can see that apart from a 1 little millimeter right there, this whole section has covered up the existing holes. So there's nothing left. And that 1 millimeter, if you can see it there, you can't even see it. But all of that void has now been filled up with stainless steel, so to speak. The upsizing of the hole, the difference in the actual hole, which is, well, it's about 10 mil all the way around, or 15 mil of actual material has all been filled. This section here has been filled. this section here has been filled. Now, if I was to give a kit like this to an apprentice, I could assume that they're going to get the job done within, you know, a half an hour period. As where if I'm going to give a bottle of, or a big tub of putty to somebody to do, I know they're going to be there going backwards and forwards, and it's just not profitable. When you look at the finish, this is a bolt-on solution where you're getting a standard expectation finish. When you're going for repairing the door, putty, sanding, painting, these finishes all vary, and the results can vary depending on the applicator and the finish and their skills. At least with this type of finish, you know what you're getting. Stainless steel. This is flush here. You cannot break this or get to this cylinder. When you're thinking, okay, well, what do I do if I can't pick it open? Can I drill it open? The rest of the lock remains the same. You're not going to be drilling through any stainless steel if you drill this cylinder out, which is another benefit, because stainless steel is a nightmare to drill through. Absolute nightmare. So you're basically going to be doing what you do with your lock anyway, and fitting it up, you're going to be doing exactly what you normally do with a lock anyway. The only one added step that's been put in there is this extra screw, and the reason that screw's been put in there is to basically give the actual lock body a bit more strength and to tie it in a bit better. At the moment, the way the 001 works is that you've got two parts and they squeeze together on the door, and then you put these screws in from the back. Using this system, we've connected the faceplate to the spacer to the sleeve, and now we've connected the sleeve to the actual main frame, or forgotten the word now, mounting plate. So that is three things connected, plus we've got that squeezing action, plus we've got the installation of the actual screws going into the wood. Now, the other consideration was, will this affect how the fire brigade break into units and things along those lines? Because this lock has been designed for that exact reason, that when it's actually fitted to the door, fire brigade can come along and basically use their tools to get this lock open. And the truth is, nothing changes. The only thing that changes is that this is a complete unit on the door, so when they're actually crowbarring and prizing it open, you're probably going to find your door is not going to split here now, because it's got something to push against and it's working as a one solid unit, as where if you had putty in there, or if you basically use plates and things, it's all going to bend, crack and warp. So you've got more integrity in the door. As for the fire brigade, when they force it off, it's always on the door frame that actually gives up, never the lock side of things. So the door frame remains stock standard Lockwood installation as it's always been, so there's nothing changing there. Even the screw hole there, the extra screw hole there, you can put in as well if you want, or you can use it so that when you tighten up these 2-cylinder screws, it doesn't kink in. It would just give a little bit more support if you're working on a 38mm door or a 45mm door or so. So you put that screw in there, and then you come along with your screwdriver through the hole and just wind it out to pack it up. And that's a much better way of doing it. When you look at the alternatives, and I'll just show you what the alternative here. I mean, yeah, there's not really a lot of difference right there. Sizing of it's all about the same. I still think this looks a lot nicer machine finish. This one here with the deadbolt ring, that often moves around like that. So, it's got lips and bumps. I'm not really a fan of that. And if you go for the sleeve, well, but then you've got this big stainless steel plate wrapped around your door, so I'm not really a fan of that either. Anyway, that's a new product. 001 fitting sleeve is what it's called. Hopefully we'll bring it to market. We're just working on a few extra bugs just to see how cheap we can get it. The idea is to bring it out as cheap as possible so that it's an option and it's just an extra, just like a packing plate. You just put it all together, put it on the door. Being stainless steel, it is one of the most expensive materials. We could have cut corners and we could have gone for a die cast or a brass and things like that. But the question is then, would it actually stand up in a fire, and is it a fire rated material, or is it something that'll need to be burnt to death to be tested? And the thing is that by going for stainless steel, well, it is stainless is something that melts at 1500 degrees, as where the brass cylinders melt at 1000 degrees. So we know by using a more supreme quality in material, we know we're going to get better results. The finish, the strength, the fire rating to fill up a door. I mean, if you're allowed to put putty in a door because it's fire rated, filling the door up completely with stainless steel in a machine finish, leaving probably it's a 95 or 96% fill. There is not much meat in this whole section that where it's fitted that doesn't have stainless steel. And the precision of it, this cylinder right here is a little bit tight to get in. That's how precise it is, which is brilliant, because it just means that everything's just going to go together and work. Okay, so just before we go, would like to ask you 3 questions. First one of all, do you like the product? Is it sexy enough to be on the front door? That would be the first one. Second of all, have we forgotten something? Can you see any design flaws where perhaps it could be improved? With all the smart locksmiths that are out there and all the knowledge that all the locksmiths have who watch this channel, it's really good to get some sort of feedback. If we've overlooked something or if it could have been done a different way, sometimes it's always good to ask the question. And if you've got any comments, please leave them down in the description. Let us know what you think of the product overall. Let us know if you feel it could be improved in any way. Third of all, the third question that we'd really like to get some feedback on is, what do you think this type of product would sell for? What would you be happy as a locksmith? What would you pay for something like this to speed up the process of a really bad lock install and changing it into a lock install that just about anybody could do? So those 3 questions, if you could leave them down in the leave them down in the comment section. Your feedback is great for us. At least it knows that we get experience from so many locksmiths. So many times, many locksmiths are out there have given a real good bit of advice or a tip, and it saved us time, and we do appreciate it. So yeah, leave your comments down below, and thanks for watching.